What do you guys think of when you hear the number 66?
Route
Besides,
66.
exactly. Besides a famous highway, that is actually the average number of sunny days in the state of Ohio. Kind of crazy. Tonight, I'm going to talk to you about 3 reasons why you should move from Ohio to Dallas-Fort Worth. I'm going to start by talking about the economics of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Courtney, she's our resident business expert, and she will talk to us about the business climate that makes Dallas-Fort Worth special. And our third member, Tara, she'll talk to us about what the fun things are to do in Dallas. She's like our own personalized Yelp of Dallas. So, why Dallas? These are the 4 items we'll go over. So why Dallas? The economy, the business climate, and the big D lifestyle. I first want to start off by giving you a personal story. 1.5 years ago, I was living in Pennsylvania. And for 8 months out of the year, that is what I was doing. And it was not fun. Snow looked so much more fun on TV. Why that's important is after doing this year after year, I decided to look for what other jobs there would be in the warmer climate. First, when I started looking for jobs, I noticed that everything started to move to Dallas. I work in the transportation industry like a lot of you guys do, and I noticed everything was just coming down to Dallas. What appealed to me was the warm weather, the low cost of business, and all the fun things there are to do outside of work. If you don't want to take my advice or my personal experience, here are what our experts have to say. Some of this may be a little bit hard to read, but that's just the nature of being good. Some of the highlights is just how Dallas-Fort Worth is top 10, top 5, top 3, they're just winning. And to understand why Dallas-Fort Worth is such a great place, we have to start with the economy. Its city economy is ranked 12th in the world. It has over $300 billion in GDP. To put that in perspective, that would place it 34th in the entire world, ahead of Venezuela. Also, we have a workforce of 3 million people, 30% of which are actually college educated with at least a bachelor's degree. So a very high educated workforce. We have over 6 million people. 2010 had us just around 6.5 million people, making us about the 4th largest metroplex in the US. And part of the reason why the Dallas-Fort Worth economy is so strong is because of the diversity of the industries. What this is showing is the concentration, the employment, the diversity of the industry and the employment it had its effects on the economy. So what basically to boil it down to, you want it as close to 1 as possible. And these are the 4 major industries. One is the manufacturing, professional services, information, and I believe it was, there's another one, I think technology. And as you can see, Dallas-Fort Worth is pretty consistent across on 1 compared to other places such as LA and New York. And so, with that, I will hand this over to Courtney, who will talk about the special business climate that will positively impact your bottom line.
Thank you, Cal. Well, Cal spoke with you all about his favorite thing about Dallas, getting to warmer weather. One of my favorite things about living and working in Dallas, Texas, is the fact that I get to live and work in Texas as a state. I want to read you a quote from Rick Perry, our governor. Texas continues to garner national attention because of our state's favorable tax climate, tort reform, business-friendly attitude, and low cost of doing business. Texas has actually made a name for itself and created a global, worldwide reputation of being extremely business-friendly, a growing and robust economy, and a very competitive and innovative legislative and tax structure that it promotes instead of hinders business creation. One other aspect I want to touch on here is the non-unionized workforce. What that does for the Dallas-Fort Worth area is make it, the ease of doing business goes up, you have better labor relations, and the cost and risk of doing business goes down. DFW helps business as well. A critical mass can be explained purely as just the number of global corporations that are headquartered in Dallas, Fort Worth, and that offer an incredible network for any business coming here to grow from. The Dallas Regional Momentum is the strategic planning arm of the Dallas Chamber of Commerce, which works closely with the Fort Worth Chamber of Commerce to promote relocation, corporate relocation and expansion to our area. Dallas marketing team, their job is like a personal concierge. They live only to go out and encourage the location of business and expansion within this area as well. They do anything from acting as a real estate agent, doing site studies development for you, putting together research studies based on competition and I guess opportunity within the area. And finally, they're your number one fan. Continuing on though, what Rick Perry said on this, Dallas, Fort Worth offers an incredibly low cost, low tax, and high quality area to do business in. Some of those things include abatements that we provide public and private corporations, rebates and exemptions and grants. Two key incentives to keep in mind are zero personal income tax. That's right, we're a red state, and it works very well for us. Right now, Texas has a 10-year property tax abatement up to 100%, which is unprecedented with any other state in the United States. That basically means if you come in and create new investment, which means you increase the value of something, instead of being taxed on that improvement value that you're bringing there, that tax is forgiven, never be paid again, 10 years, up to 100%, which is huge. So DFW relocation incentives include some that are regional, some local, and then many state-based incentives. Some of the state-based incentives are the Texas Economic Development Fund, which allows leaders in Texas a unique leverage to go out and attract jobs and businesses to our state. The Texas Enterprise Fund is meant to retain and create local and regional job growth in Texas. It has been extremely powerful in the recent economic downturn and actually maintaining or retaining a lot of the jobs in areas throughout the state. There are a number of loan assistance and training assistance programs. Training for one would be the Texas Skilled Development Program, where the state will actually, on a grant-based scenario, pay for the training of employees within the state. Texas Emerging Technologies Fund was created for the purpose of creating more innovative ideas here, keeping them here, but taking them to market globally. And finally, looking forward, DFW 2015, we boast the following. We will be the top job creator of any metroplex in the entire United States between 2010 and 2015. By 2015, we will be on the top 10 Fortune Global 500 headquarters, so we're now moving out of the United States, but into the global arena. Also, we'll be the top 3 for all U.S. public and private corporate headquarters. We'll be the top 5 in global GDP market, top 5 in new technology development jobs, and the top 10 in annual venture capital investment, with plans to increase our current investment by 150% each year. And Tara now is going to talk to you about some of the fabulous things to do once you get yourself here.
Thank you, Courtney. So we've discussed Dallas's economy and business climate. Now, why live in Dallas? Let me start with the cost of living. So even though Dallas-Fort Worth is the 4th largest metroplex in the United States, we are well below the national average in cost of living. So this chart here shows the cost of living of all the major cities in the U.S. The national average is an index score of 100, and the DFW area is a 91.9, so significantly lower. So this is important as you keep your labor costs low and attract new talent. It also allows your employees to enjoy a higher standard of living at a lower cost for utilities, healthcare, and transportation, as well and especially with housing. So the DFW housing prices are 30% lower than the national average, which is represented by that really low number right there. And we're 50% lower than large metropolitan areas. Especially now with the ease of travel with our expanding public transportation system. This allows your employees to choose between a variety of communities to fit their personal lifestyle or their price points. Another important aspect of the lifestyle is education. So the DFW area is home to 76 school districts. 750 schools are recognized as exemplary by the Texas Education Agency, and 6 of those are blue ribbon nationally recognized schools. There's also several private and parochial schools in the area, but most of all, DFW is home to several exceptional educational institutions such as SMU, University of North Texas, TCU, just to name a few. So you have this great talent pool right in your backyard. So in Dallas, we like to work hard and play hard. So what is there to do here? If you're interested in arts and culture, Dallas is home to the largest urban arts district in the United States. There's more than 176 museums and galleries, 50 professional theaters, and including the Windspear Opera House and the Bass Performance Hall. And Dallas is also home to the Dallas Arboretum and the Trinity River Corridor project, when completed, will be 10 times larger than New York Central Park. Now, if you're like me and you love a good meal or a new pair of shoes, Dallas has great options for shopping and dining. Dallas has more restaurants per capita than New York City and more shopping centers per capita than any city in the US. And of course, we have the newly renovated North Park Mall, which is a lot of fun. Now, if you're into sports and entertainment, pictured here is the Cowboys Stadium, which is a 2-year-old state-of-the-art stadium that is home to the Dallas Cowboys, but it's also been home of, or hosted the Super Bowl, the NBA All-Star Game, several headlining concerts. DFW is also home to 4 other professional teams, including the Dallas Stars, the Texas Rangers, and the Dallas Mavericks, world champions. And DFW is also home to the State Fair of Texas, which is the largest state fair in the US. But if you need to get out of Dallas, you have the 3rd busiest airport right in your backyard. DFW operates thousands of flights all over the United States and world daily. So just to recap, why DFW? We have a thriving economy, we have a supportive business environment, and it's a fun and affordable place to live. Any questions?
I do. On one of the slides, and I'm sorry, I don't remember who it was, talking about in 2015, where Texas is going to be, and you mentioned about like the number 1, number 3 place for headquarters and everything. So how are we on track with those numbers? I mean, where did those numbers come from, and how are we tracking with those to know that that's going to really happen?
Dallas is currently ranked as number 3, at least from Forbes 500 for US-based Fortune 500 companies.
Okay.
It is right now competing with Chicago and New York.
Okay.
Chicago and Atlanta, excuse me. But has gained momentum like no other, and has economic growth projections greater than either one of those cities.
Any other questions?
I have a question about the abatement tax-free deal? So does that mean that if I wanted to start a business in how should I say, an urban area that is definitely on the downside, I wouldn't have to pay any taxes if I could make that business profitable?
Yes, in fact, to that point, you would both receive
What was his question?
his question related to if he went into an urban area or a economically less fortunate area in Texas, would he be able to, would not pay property taxes,
Oh,
exempt
okay.
paying? So to answer that, and I guess I'm gonna answer it fully, their property taxes on the land that you owned is still possibly something you would have to pay. The reason that's a possibility is because not only is that a single tax abatement, but you would also qualify now for the Texas Enterprise Fund, which is responsible for going out and there are certain capital requirements and time, but it would be, depending on the area, putting at least 25% of your workforce in serving that either underserved, underdeveloped, or area that needed improvement. That, this fund has also been used for keeping teachers in work in these areas. The actual property tax abatement, if you went and you bought a building, you bought a school, and you bought a lot of land for school, knowing that you're going to be creating growth in this area and it's a good thing to own real estate here, you would pay property on that. But anything you did to renovate a school, even if it was at like complete terribleness, all the way up, you're not going to pay any personal property tax on the improvement value that you usually would, which is what you're taxed on often, like when you buy a new home, moving out of one that was from 1950. That difference there allows you, they pretty much say thank you for building improvements in our state.
Any other questions?
So you mentioned all of the fine arts and opportunities and the growth and everything. How has that worked with the citizens of Dallas as far as helping to fund all of that? I mean, does it seem to have a good support, or is there some backlash for tax dollars going to help fund those things?
So how has the community contributed to the funding for the arts in Dallas? There's a lot of it is through private donors, but there's also public funding, state funding for this. And I'm not sure quite the backlash, but that's something I can look up for you.
I will say Texas has been very controlled. There would be someone you would call like a Warren Buffett, a very wise person to listen to in their endeavors to actually spend public money on that. And all of the funds that are not, they create no deficit. These are not like arts agencies, short agencies that are actually just draining our budget. These are all in areas where this expansion and this rejuvenation of culture is part of the entire development plan for certain areas. And it's been very successful. We don't overspend.
Oh, one other question. Kel, you were just talking about some things in Dallas and what they have to offer as you started. What is education like as far as Dallas Independent School District?
The question is, what are public schools like in the Dallas Independent School District? I'm actually from what I've read, the Independent School District in Dallas has quite a few good ratings, quite a few. There's actually a website that would probably be best to explain all the statistics on the Independent School District, and that would probably be the best place to get your information.
Any other
Any
questions?
other-
All right, thank you for your time, and we look forward to you making DFW your home.
Give them a hand. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. I have to say, I loved your visual aids. So I don't know if you guys all did that, but the template looked good, and we'll talk more about it, but just overall, they look nice. The template looked good. Simple, they were easy to see. I really like that. You guys had a lot of information in there.
Yeah.
That was the.
Lot of-
I learned a lot about my fair city. I'm not gonna lie to you. It was kind of cool.
But that's
Is
what,
it really
came
gonna
down
be
and
bigger
have to
than
take stuff
Central
out.
Park?
I'm
that's what
totally.
the
That
Chamber
got me
of
too.
Commerce is predicting right now based on that.
It's gonna be, so that one area, there's no way.
It's gonna stretch. It's gonna stretch.
It's huge though compared to New York. It's just the size.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah, that's straight from the regional chamber.
Yeah, I mean, this is all of our data was from Dallas and
Yeah.
Fortune 100 and all the
No,
Fortune-
That's really
all those.
cool. Okay, wait. I'm gonna put that there, that's yours, okay? Okay, that's just awesome.
Well, and just the listing of the museums and the,
That reminds me of.
Well, and that didn't even add Fort Worth.
This is probably what that's working out.
Oh, sorry.